Okay, it does say that we are broadcasting, at least here on the screen, while I'm still trying to figure it out and double check.
Yes.
Because
Hare Kṛṣṇa, everyone.
Hare Kṛṣṇa, Mataji, Dandat Pranam, Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. Okay, so how are you all doing today?
Good.
Friday, good.
Okay.
Okay, so then let's get going in our continued studies of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And we will do that after we pray to our spiritual master, because if we don't pray to our spiritual masters, then we cannot achieve anything, right? Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, yasya prasadan nagati katopi, dhyayam sutam tasya yashasti sandham bande guru shri charnarvindam, right? That's why we say that unless and until we don't have Guru's mercy, we will not be able to do or achieve anything. And God forbid, if that mercy gets pulled away, then there is no destination we cannot reach our gati. Nagati kutopi. There's no way that they can reach the destination. And the destination for us is going back to Godhead, right? Okay, so with that in mind, let's get started on our prayers. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnana-anjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rūpam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarva-bhūtam Parjana Sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hare Hare Bol. So Kamalode Mataji, can you text me, Mataji? Hare Krishna Varshana Mataji.
She just texted that she cannot join today.
She cannot join, yes.
Okay, then tell her the fine. Okay, so what verse are we doing today?
6.31.
6.31.
6.31. Okay, let's get going. And what chapter is that?
Sixth yoga.
Sixth chapter? And sixth chapter is about what topic?
Dhyana yoga.
Dhyana yoga.
Dhyana yoga. Okay, it's very interesting. You're talking about dhyan, and we were talking about concentration just a little before we started broadcasting on Facebook. And so today I was going out on my walk, and by the water in Foster City, there was a bird that was sitting there, and as soon as I approached of it, the bird flew. It was a very big bird. And then I realized that it was the heron, Heron in our colloquial Hindi language, you might know as bagula. Bagula, right? Heron. So, so the bird was sitting very still. It sits like that, very still, and it is watching. And then as soon as the fish comes by, in very swift movement, it'll dip the beak and then catch the fish and eat it, right? So I was just thinking, as I went by that bird and it flew away, I was reminded of the term that we use in India, and which is Bagla Bhagat. So Bagla Bhagat basically means that I mean this bird sits as if it's meditating on something. And you might think he's meditating on God, but he's not meditating on God. He's meditating on the waters completely with rapt attention to catch the fish that comes there, right? And I was thinking like, oh, we are doing chapter 6 in Bhagavad Gita today, and we these days, and we are talking about concentration and focusing our mind. And so I was like, okay, at least I wish that I get the concentration of a bagula, but I wish I concentrate on God and not on fish that I would eat like that. But what I'm just saying is that it is possible. And one of the thoughts that came to my mind was that if it is possible for a bird, it should be possible for human beings also.
Yeah.
Right? We are in a superior position. Right? So let's go to our verse then. And why should we wait? Right? 6.31, bringing it up. Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ yo mam bhajati ekatvam āsthitaḥ sarvathā vartamānopi sa yogī mayi vartate. Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ yo mam bhajati ekatvam āsthitaḥ sarvathā vartamānopi sa yogī mayi vartate. Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ yo mam. Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ, situated in everyone's heart. Yaha, he who, mam means me. Bhajate ekatvam āsthitaḥ. Bhajati serves in devotional service. Ekatvam, in oneness. Āsthitaḥ, situated. Sarvathā, in all respects. Vartamānaḥ, being situated. Sarvathā vartamānopi. Api is api, in spite of. Saha, he. Sa yogi mayi vartate. Saha, he, yogi, the transcendentalist, mayi, in me, vartate, remains, right? So it's saying sarva-bhutas, somebody is situated in everybody's heart. Who is that somebody? Kṛṣṇa is saying, I am me. So right, I'm situated in everybody's heart, and that person serves in me in devotional service, right? In oneness, in all respects. So api is in spite of. So then we have to look into the verse to see in spite of what? Because it just seems to be like, that yogi serves me in devotional service, in oneness, and, is situated in spite of what, right? So we'll go into the words and we'll see that. So what's the meaning of vartamāno?
Being situated.
Situated, right? Okay. And then what is the meaning of vartate?
Remains.
Remains.
All right, good. And what is the meaning of sarvathā?
In all
All
respects.
respects. Yeah.
In all respects. Okay. And what is the meaning of sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ?
Situated
Situated
in
in everyone's
everyone's
heart.
heart.
Okay. And what is the Sanskrit for devotional service?
Ekatvam.
Bhajati.
Okay. And give me another word in Sanskrit that means the same as vartamāna.
Pita.
Āsthitaḥ.
Asti.
Āsthitaḥ. All right, good. And then what is oneness?
Ekatvam.
Ekatvam. Ekatvam. Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ yo man bhajate ekatvam āsthitaḥ. Sarvathā vartamānopi sa yogi mayi vartate. Sarvatā means in all respect, right? Okay. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupada. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. This is Purport by Śrīla Prabhupada. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the Supersoul sees within himself the plenary portion of Kṛṣṇa as Viṣṇu, with 4 hands holding conchshell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Viṣṇu is non-different from Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa in this form of Supersoul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable Supersouls present in the innumerable hearts of the living entities, nor is there a difference between a Kṛṣṇa conscious person always engaged in transcendental loving service of Kṛṣṇa and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the Supersoul. The yogi in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, right? Even though, right? And that is where this api is coming, right?
Api, in spite of.
In spite of, you see? So even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Kṛṣṇa. This is confirmed in the Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu 1.2.87 of Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī, Nikhilasva api avasthasu jīvan-muktaḥ sa uchyate. A devotee of the Lord always acting in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is automatically liberated. In the Nārada Pañcarātra, this is confirmed in this way. Dikkaladya anavichinne Kṛṣṇe cheto vidhayacha tanmayo bhavati shipram jivo brahmani yojayet. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Kṛṣṇa, who is all-pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Kṛṣṇa and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Kṛṣṇa consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Kṛṣṇa is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.21 confirm this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Eko pisan bahuda yo bhajati. That although the Lord is one, Eko, he is present in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in the Smriti Shastra, it is said, Eka eva paro Viṣṇu, sarva-vyapina samshayaha, Aishwarya Rūpam ekam cha, Surya-vad bahu dheyate. Viṣṇu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere as the sun appears in many places at once. Okay? So, I think it's time for us to go back and look at this chapter as a whole really quickly, and then at some of the few verses from the past few weeks to kind of come up with the link and what Kṛṣṇa is trying to explain to Arjuna there. So chapter 6, you said correctly, is about Dhyan Yoga, where you are focusing on the Lord. And so Kṛṣṇa in the very first verse said that one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he's obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So if you're this is Dhyan Yoga as mystic yoga, right? So now Kṛṣṇa is talking and giving a very different dimension. Right in the opening sentence of the chapter, he's saying that that, it is okay for an athlete is better, right? Or this is the reality that one who works as he is obligated. You have to work as you're obligated, but do not be attached to the fruits of your work. Give me one verse from Bhagavad Gita that talks about do not be attached to your work.
Karmani vadikaraste.
Give me full verse.
Karmani vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana
Nate karma pal hetu bhu.
Mate sango swakarmani.
Mate sangostva akarmani.
Swakarmani.
Okay, so what does it mean?
You can do your work, but you should not be attached to the results of the fruits of your work.
Good point.
And you should not think yourself to be the cause of the result.
So you said you can do your work. Is it you can do your work or you should do your work?
No, you should perform your duty, but you should not be attached to the results.
Right. You should not be attached to the results. And let's see.
And then also it says that you should not think yourself the cause of the result.
Yeah. Karmaneva adhikaraste. Then say database, you will get it. 2.47. Why was it not showing me that? Yeah, karmanevadhikaraste manma karm phala heturbhur. Right? Never consider yourself the cause of the results of work and never be attached to not doing your duty. Because sometimes people just say, hey, I'm chanting. Don't ask me to do this. Don't ask me to do that. You take care of all the chores in the house. That's not the case, right? So never be attached to not doing your duty. So, okay. So going back to chapter number 6, in the very first verse, he's just talking about, right? So the person is better, who is actually doing what he's supposed to do. And then you should know this renunciation, you should know, is the same as yoga. So if a person is doing like this, right, doing his duty, always keeping Kṛṣṇa in his heart, then he's a Kṛṣṇa conscious person, right? And then, so then should I work or should I not work? Then he's saying over here that in the beginning, you have to work. And then later on, as you are elevated in the yoga and you are climbing the yoga ladder, then it's okay that you can cease doing the material activities. You're not necessarily obligated, right? And then, of course, he also talks about the mind, that mind is your friend, mind is your enemy, and you make your mind your friend. So that way you will be elevated from this situation and rise to a higher level, okay? And then we were also talking about, the various stages, Yoga Rūಢa and then Yoga Rukshu, right? Yoga Rukshu is the lower position or early position, the junior position, okay? And then they also talked about that what should you do? How should you get started? So you can see that to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place. So now find a kusha grass, go sit over there. Deerskin cloth, sit neck erect, this, that, right? So all these things, permutations and combinations have to be there while you are pursuing the dhyana yoga route, right? And then the regulations continue. Don't eat too much, don't eat too little, like that, right? Controlling of the mind. After all, dhyana yoga is all about controlling the mind, right? So it gave the example, very nice example of a lamp in a windless place, right? We did that a few months ago. And so yogi's mind also will not waver because there's no wind. And wind is basically all these material attachments and all these material impetus that are there, right? And then as we progress, right? So a person is then beginning, he's a Kanishta Adhikari, he's sitting there, he's practicing, and sometimes he falls asleep, sometimes he has to keep his eyes half open, half closed, like that, he's all doing. And then as you continue to progress in devotional service, then your mind is going to be withdrawn. It's a natural thing from your material objects till it is completely, and after withdrawing from material object, you will start to align it and focus it on the Lord, right? So then you're saying gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction that there is God and I'm not him, and I have soul and I'm not the body, right? Then the mind should be fixed on the self, and the S is capital over here, which basically means that we're talking about fixing the mind on God, right? And then again, he's saying that, while you're doing all that, your mind is flickery by nature. And Arjuna will also say, a few verses from today, he'll also say, Chanchalam hi mana Kṛṣṇa, right? He'll say that he'll post the problem over there, right? So he's saying that, well, it's okay. Your mind is going to wander, but then you bring it back. Keep on bringing it back, bringing it back. Focus is back to Kṛṣṇa, back to Kṛṣṇa, right? So then in 27, he said that, if a yogi's mind is fixed on Kṛṣṇa, then he's beyond the mode of passion, right? And he realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme. And this is one thing that we also have to remember and keep in mind, is that as we go along Bhagavad Gita and start reading Srila Prabhupada's translations and his purports, Srila Prabhupada jumps at every opportunity to say and to keep us away from somehow understanding that we are God, right? And especially when you say that, you identify yourself with the Lord, right? A yogi, his mind is fixed. He reaches his, higher stage of, but he gets liberated. But then again, he's saying that he realizes his qualitative identity, right? He's not talking about, in the Brahma Bhutam says liberation by identification with the absolute. So this word Brahma Bhutam can mean anything, right? To a person, and he literally can translate to that I am, if I identify with the absolute, this means I am the absolute, I am the Lord, right? And that is Mayavadi philosophy, to think that I am God. So Prabhupada in his translations, because he knows he's wise, so he will translate that and add certain words and sometimes qualify and sometimes use very different words so that we get the message. So what kind of identity does he talk about in the translation, Srila Prabhupada?
Qualitative.
Qualitative, right? So it's very, very important. It's qualitative identity and not the quantitative identity. So Supreme Lord is still the Supreme. I might have some of his properties because I am his part and parcel. Which verse in Bhagavad Gita talks about us being his parts and parcel?
Mm.
Mame?
Mame vansha jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha.
Then what happens to that?
Manashasthani indriyani.
Prakritim.
I don't know the
And
last
when he's
sentence.
situated in Prakriti, what happened?
Prakriti.
Mame vansho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manasasthani indrani, prakritim, sthani, karshati.
Karshati.
Situated. Karshati. We were talking in the beginning of the class before we broadcast, right? Started the broadcast about Karshati, right? the word Karshati itself sounds very, prickly kind of a word, right? If you start imagining that word, right? When you hear the word karkash, right? Full of thorns.
Karkash.
Yeah, karkash. So this is what it is. Life is like that. Karshati means to suffer the miseries and the pangs of material nature. The fangs of material nature. She comes and she, trishul of material nature. And we suffer those pains that come from material nature. So it's a fact. Right? But here he's saying that you should realize their qualitative identity with the Lord. So you see, Kṛṣṇa will every now and Prabhupada will every now and then clarify, right? So in 6.27, he's talking about that. Qualitative identity. And thus the self-control yogi engaged in yoga practice becomes free from all material contamination, kalmasham, right? And achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. So again, the highest stage of perfect happiness is that brahma-bhuta prasanna atma. Na shochati,
na kankshati.
Right? So, brahma-bhuta prasanna atma, na shochati, na kankshati means now your miseries are gone. Right? Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. Right? Then after that is the most important thing, right? Mad bhaktim labde param. Right? So once you start doing thus the self-control yogi constantly engaged in yoga practice becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of happiness. What is that highest stage of happiness? Mad bhaktim labde param. In param means transcendental. So in transcendental loving service to the Lord. So that is what is going to happen to the yogi. Right? And then here, a true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Text 30. For one who sees me everywhere and sees me in everything, I am never lost, nor is he lost to me. Okay, now here, homework. Not homework, classwork. Take these two verses, look at these two verses, and tell me how many times has the word me appeared in each one of them.
3 in each.
6 times 3 and 3.
3 in each, right? 3 in each. Now, okay, so me means in here, what does
Lord
me
Kṛṣṇa.
Kṛṣṇa.
Right, Lord Kṛṣṇa. Okay, so now let's go and look at 29. Right? Sarva-bhūta-stham atmanam sarva-bhūtani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Right? So, okay, now let's look at the next verse. Where is our next verse? Next verse will come here. Okay. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sa cha me na pranashyati. Right? And this is the verse we did last time. We were talking about pranashyati, never lost, right? And we looked at so many verses from the scriptures about getting lost and not getting lost, right? Okay. So from here, tell me which is the word which stands for me. Give me the Sanskrit word that stands for me.
Mayi.
Huh?
In
Mom.
20, in 30 or in this one, your mom.
Me, Mataji. Shache me. Me. Mom.
Mom.
Mom, right?
Mom.
Mom means
Yeah.
me, right? Mom means me. Okay. So if you want to use the word mom, you will use the word me in Sanskrit. This is right?
Yes.
Agreed? Okay. Now let's go back to 29, Sanskrit, and tell me, where is mom? Do you have the ma word?
No,
No.
Mataji.
Oh, yeah, right? You don't have it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's now look at this verse a little bit more scrutinizingly, right? Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ, situated in all beings. Atmanam, the Supersoul. Sarva, all. Bhutani, entities. Cha, also. Atmani, in the self. Ikshate, Dasi. Yoga-yuktatma, one who is dovetail in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Sarvatra, everywhere. Samadarshana, seen equally, right? Now, in the translation, Prabhupada has said, a true yogi observes me in all beings. But
And
there is,
also sees me, but yeah, there's no meaning of me.
there is no
No
meaning,
translation.
right? There is no synonym, and even the verse does not use the word me here, right?
Hmm.
Right? So basically, that what if you were to look at the translation, if a computer was to translate it, it'll just say a true yogi observes the super soul in all beings.
Hmm.
Bhutasam Atmanam sees the super soul situated in all beings, right? And
Yes.
sarva-bhūtāni cha Atmani, and also sees, all the beings in the super soul, right? Atmanam, Atmani, so the self, super soul, the self, like that, right? So this is what, if you look at the pure Sanskrit, you see that, but Prabhupada somehow seems to have, changed the translation. Apparently, it looks like he has changed the translation. He has put in the word me, right? And before we jump to the conclusion and we say that Prabhupada twists the meaning of verses in Bhagavad Gita, I again wanted to emphasize that Prabhupada wants you to know and reach the highest destination, right? And what is the highest destination? For the soul. What is the highest destination for the soul? Come on. Somebody said before the class they wanted to go there.
Gonita.
To reach the Vaikuntha.
Golok. Yes, Golok Vrindavan. That's the highest form that you want to go, right? So if you want to go to Kanyakumari and you are in Delhi, if you want to go to Kanyakumari, I should take a train that takes me to Kanyakumari, right? All right. Okay.
Yes.
I should not take the train that takes me to Bhopal and ends in Bhopal or drops me in Bhopal, right? Bhopal is in the middle of India. Kanyakumari is at the end of India, and I'm in Delhi, right? So if I'm on the top of India, north of India, I want to go to southmost tip of India, I should not take a train that will drop me in the middle of India, because otherwise I'll have to take another train, and I don't know. I have to find out what is the train that now goes from Bhopal to Kanyakumari, right? So Prabhupada is saying, why do that? Just go straight to the right train. Just take the right train, right? So yes, we agree that that verse is talking about Atmani. The verse is talking about super soul, right? But Prabhupada says that, no, see Kṛṣṇa. And so that is why we as bhaktas who are chanting, right? Suppose if I want to meditate, I like this. It's a nice thing to meditate and to get into the practice of controlling the mind. And if I look at all this and I say, oh yeah, I can do that. I can go to a quiet place. I can sit and I can meditate on the Lord. So of course the yogi, the Lord is in our heart. And the yogi has to find out where in the heart. Viṣṇu is, the heart is this big, right? This big. So where is Viṣṇu? That the yogi has to find out. But the bhakta, right? If the bhakta can also concentrate in the heart, there's nothing that prevents the bhakta from concentrating on the heart. But what Prabhupada is saying is that If a bhakta is concentrating and wants to see God in his heart, then he should focus his attention into the heart, but he should think of Kṛṣṇa. In comparison to a yogi thinks of whom? A yogi is trying to find out whom in the heart. Huh?
Self.
Me.
Give me the Sanskrit. दिल में कौन रहते हैं?
Supersoul.
हाँ, सुपर सोल संस्कृत है.
No.
Paramatma, right?
Yeah.
Paramatma, yeah.
Right? So a yogi will try to find the Paramatma, and Paramatma is nothing but your Kshirodakshayi Viṣṇu, another name for Kshirodakshayi Viṣṇu. So he is focusing on Viṣṇu. How many hands does Viṣṇu have?
Four.
Right? So he will concentrate on the four-handed form of the Lord, four-handed form of the absolute truth. That's what a yogi does. Right? And then yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajyantente kalevaram tam tam evati konteya sada sadbhavam yanti deva vrta devan pitrin yanti prativitaha bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti majyajino pimam. So he's saying that whoever you worship, you will go to that planet. You want to worship Brahma? Okay, he'll take you to his planet. Right? You want to worship Indra? He'll take you to his planet. You want to worship Bali Maharaj? He'll take you to his planet after his death. Right? After your death. Like that. So, yanti deva vrta devan pitrin yanti prativata. If you worship the ancestors, you'll be taken to the planet of the ancestors, Pitrilok. Right? Where is Pitrilok? Did you ever think about that? Pitrilok is supposed to reside on the moon. So, yeah. So, Pitri is, so yanti deva pitrin yanti prativata bhutani yanti bhuteja. Some people worship the ghosts and spirits, right? They worship in the mode of ignorance. They worship ghosts and spirits, so they will go to the planets of ghosts and spirits. Wherever ghosts and spirits are there, you will reach there. Okay? Yanti mad yapino. But those who worship me will come to me. And where does Kṛṣṇa live? He lives in Golok. So you will go there. Right? So Prabhupada is saying you want to go to Goloka. Why are you taking the train to Vaikuntha? Right? So Golaka is at the highest. Vaikuntha planets are a little lower. Like that. So he wants us all, because he's in the Madhurya Ras, right? From Bengal. So Prabhupada wants us all to go back to Godhead. That's his aim. So he will always try to assist you and prevent, like how you put those flaps on the horse's eyes so that he doesn't look here and there, stays focused like that. So he also wants us to stay focused, right? So he has translated that. But then is he justified in doing those kind of translations? Right? Because it didn't say, it said Supersoul, and you're saying this is Bhagavad Gita as it is. Now, I don't see that this is as it is because he didn't translate. So, right, a person can think. When you become a little bit more philosophical, right, a person can delve into this. And the reason I'm bringing this up is so that you understand, if somebody questions you when you're giving them a Bhagavad Gita and somebody points out and says, hey, in your Bhagavad Gita, this is what is written, right? Then you should know everything scrutinizingly. And somebody says, oh, but you're calling it as it is, but it is not like that. So you should be having some shastric evidence to support Prabhupada's actions and to why he has done, right? So one is the intention. His intention was to go back to Goloka. But then the question is that, tell me, where from the Shastra are you allowed to say that, right? And to translate such Supersoul as Kṛṣṇa, like that, right? So that's a question people will ask us, and we need to have an answer for that, okay? So the answer for that, so we looked at 29 and 30, right? And then we look at 31 now. Let's see. Today's verse is 31, right? Yomam paschati sarvatra. Okay, now is there a mom here?
Yes.
Sarvaham sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na panashyami sacha me panashyati. So that is 30, sorry, was it 29? And then let's at verse for today. So 30 clearly says mom, so we are fine. That is translated to Kṛṣṇa. Now, sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ yo mām bhajate ekatvam āsthitaḥ sarvathā vartamāno sa yogī mayi vartate. Well, there seems to be some similarity between 31 and 29.
29.
Right? So let's look at 29. Bring up 29. BG 6.29. And let's see. what is the similarity here, right? So BG 2096, sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ ātmānam sarva-bhūtāni chātmani. So sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ ātmānam. Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ means situated in all beings.
All
And what
beings.
this verse saying? Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ yomam. So now translated, situated in everyone's heart or in all beings, right? Yeah, he who mam may, right? So let's go. Let's continue here in this verse. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Okay, so this is the Shastra, this is the verse which allowed Srila Prabhupada to make that translation back in 6.29, right? There was no word ma was not used in that verse, but in the translation he's putting in Kṛṣṇa, right? Because he knows that 2 verses down, Kṛṣṇa himself is going to come and say, oh yeah, those who look at the super soul and those who look at me, and by the way, myself and the super soul are the same, right? So this is a very important understanding that how are Viṣṇu and Kṛṣṇa the same, when we talked about, you know, Viṣṇu doesn't have a murli, Viṣṇu doesn't have a morpank and all that kind of stuff, right? And we also hear about expansions of Kṛṣṇa, right? Like that. So let's see. I'm going to bring up something here from our favorite scripture. Very musical. Anybody wants to make a guess which scripture I'm going to bring up? Very musical. Sung on every Saturday.
Brahma-samhita.
There you go for 500 points. Ramadimuktishu kala niyamena tishtan nanavataram akarod bhuvaneshu kintu Kṛṣṇah swayam sambhavavat paramah pumanyo govindamati purusham tamaham bhajami. So here is saying, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Kṛṣṇa, and the different avatars in the world in the form of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. Now, what is the meaning of a subjective? What is the meaning of subjective? Right? He's saying my subjective portion. So we know about expansions, we know, Kṛṣṇa expands and all that, but what is the meaning of my subject, or he's my part and part? Subject.
About Kṛṣṇa.
Say that again.
About Kṛṣṇa. Knowing about Kṛṣṇa.
About Kṛṣṇa, subjective. So that's what you are, okay. Well, not quite there. Subjective. So subjective, understand here. Not quite there, Lakshmi. But subjective, whenever you come across this, right? Subjective portion, subjective, like that, subject always means a personality. Okay? Does Kṛṣṇa expand always as a personality? Or can he expand as non-personality also?
He has expanded as a personality. He has a form. So
No, that's not the question. My question is that does Kṛṣṇa always expand as a personality, or does he expand as a non-personality also?
Non-personality also.
Sorry, say that again.
He does
non-personality also.
appear as non-personality also.
One at a time. Yeah, Madhav Sangini, tell us.
Yeah, he can expand himself as non-personality.
He can expand as non-personality. Okay, and that is correct. However, give me an example of that.
You know how we are saying the name is no different from the form. So when we are saying his name, he is him, the name.
Like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Well,
Krishna.
but Hare Krishna is not personality-less. The name has a form. Because nama bhinnatvam, right? Bhinnatvam nama namino. There is no difference between a name
And Krishna.
itself and the Kṛṣṇa. So then the Kṛṣṇa has a form, name also has a form. You see? Name is not formless.
Oh.
That's what it means. Abhinattam nama namino. right? Namashtakam says that. How does Krishna expand in a formless manner? Tell me. A form of Krishna which does not have a form.
Brahmajyoti Mataji of
Yes,
this prapancha.
500 points. Brahmajyoti, right? Brahmajyoti, right? So that is not subjective portion of Krishna. You see? But Viṣṇu is a subjective portion of Krishna because the portion of Krishna has come out of Krishna and has a form. So you see? The difference is there. Okay. So now, so what form is that? We did talk about that a few weeks ago, but I'm going to bring up another nice verse from Brahma Samhita about Krishna and his subjective expansion. And this is a little further down, and it is 547. Yah karanavajale bhajati sma yoga nidram ananta jagadanda saromakupaha adhara shaktim avalambya param swamurtim govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Right? So here, this particular verse is talking about a subjective portion of Krishna. Okay? Now, we are going to look at this word. Okay? Right? So, Karan. What does Karan mean?
That means causal ocean.
Karan means causation?
Karan means
Karan means
Reason,
what?
causing.
Karan means cause or causing, right? Yeah, Karan means cause, right? What does Arnav mean? Arnav in Sanskrit means ocean. Okay? So, Karnav, Arnav, Karan, Arnav will mean causal ocean. And Jal means Jal? Water. So he's saying that he who in the waters of causal ocean. Now give me the name of the Viṣṇu that we are talking about.
Garbhodakshai Viṣṇu.
Garbhodakshai Viṣṇu.
Karanadakshayi Viṣṇu, Mahavishnu.
Karanadakshayi, there's a big giveaway here. Causal ocean, Karan.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Karan.
Karan Jale, right? So, Yaha Karan Arnava Jale, Karanava Jale. Bhaji, that's a tongue twister there. Bhajati isma yoga. So, he who to the one who lies, bhajati, who worship the one who lies in the Karan ocean. How is he lying? In creative sleep. Yoga Nidra. So, Yoga Nidra is not you're sleeping, you're actually creating at that time, right? Ananta, Jagad Anda, and we talked last time about Anda, universes. Roma Kupa, Roma means the hair, and then Kupa means the holes, right? Adhara Shaktim, all accommodating potency. Avalambya, assuming, Param, great, Swamurtim, own subjective form, subjective, right? Subjective form. Govindamadi Purusham, the original person, Tamaham Bhajami, I worship. So what is saying? I adore the primal Lord Govinda, who assuming his own great subjective form, right? The personality is there, his own form, who bears the name of Shesha, replete with the all-accommodating potency and reposing, that is sleeping, Yoga Nidra, in the causal ocean with the infinity of the world in the pores of his hair, enjoys creative sleep, Yoga Nidra, right? So, reposing means reclining, lete hue hain, and Yoga Nidra means ki adha so rahe, like that. So, so this is the Lord, this is Krishna expands. Okay. Now there is a whole in Chaitanya Charitamrita, they will talk about how Krishna expands into Balram. From Balram you get, Sankarshan, like that, and then from one Vasudev and Aniruddha, and then from Vasudev comes this Mahavishnu who is lying in the causal ocean. But all of them are expansions of Krishna or expansions of Krishna, and nevertheless they are subjective, means that they have got the personalities there. In contrast, effulgence that comes out of Krishna is also his expansion. It's also his part, and but that does not have a personality. right? Now, the quintessential question is that where do these two lie in the hierarchy? Who's higher, who's lower? And so the Mayavadi philosophers, they say that it's okay for you. There is Kṛṣṇa, yes. He came here, yes. But higher than Kṛṣṇa is the effulgence. So, and you are Kṛṣṇa. The Mayavadis say that you are that effulgence, right? Not even Kṛṣṇa, right? So somehow or the other, the effulgence took a form and came here as Kṛṣṇa. And you can worship Kṛṣṇa to focus your attention on Kṛṣṇa. But then finally, when the realization comes to you, you realize that you are actually the effulgence. And then you will merge into the effulgence and you forget everything about it. That's what the Mayavadi philosophy says, right? On the other hand, what we say is that no, effulgence is lower because you cannot engage in a relationship with the effulgence. What will you do in front of the effulgence? You can't serve effulgence, right? The other day, Varshana Mataji had to, was kind of temporarily removed from the kitchen, and she was wondering, how will I offer bhoga, right? So how do you offer bhoga to effulgence, right? Bhoga will not eat, right? So to have that sweet relationship that you have with your Lord and the master, he should have a shape, and the two should be different, right? You cannot just serve yourself, right? Like that. So the Mayavadi philosophy is a very selfish philosophy, which uses God. It uses God to find that you are God, and then you can abandon God. After that, there's no need for you to do any bhajan, anything, right? On the other hand, we say, Brahma bhuta pasannatma, na shochati na kanchati, sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labde param. Why does he see sama sarveshu bhuteshu? He sees Supersoul in everybody, and God in everybody, and then he starts doing the devotional service, right? Now, one of the things that is also called about in this verse for today is that, which people also think, is that he's talking. Let's go back to our verse and bring that verse if it's not lost already. Sharing it with you here, 6.31. Sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ, situated in everyone's heart, right? So that is how we define, Kṛṣṇa is defined. Kṛṣṇa is defined as, situated in everybody's heart. And so then when people start conceptualizing that what does it mean that he's sarvatragam, he's everywhere, right? Kṛṣṇa is everywhere. So then the closest that we can think of coming across things that are everywhere, right? For example, my granddaughter was learning from her baby daycare sitter, or, that she was teaching her in Spanish about liquid, gases, and solids, right? Solido, liquido, gaseoso. I also learned some Spanish from her video. So anyway, so when we try to look at and try to imagine something that can spread everywhere, right? So is it solido, is it gaseoso, or is it liquido, right? So solid, when we take any solid, right? For example, I take this mouse, okay? It's very confined to this space, right? On the other hand, what about some water, right? It'll stay confined. It can spread. It doesn't have a shape, but it takes the shape of the container in which it is put, right? Liquido. Then we have gaseoso. So what happens in gaseoso? Gas also doesn't have a shape. And gas will take the shape of the container. But then what is it, the difference between gas and liquid? Gas can go out of the container on its own, right? And go here and there, right? So when it comes to defining something that can be everywhere, all pervading, in your real life, if you were to say, what is it that is all pervading? You will say air is all pervading, isn't it? What's the shape of the air? There is no shape of the air, right? Does it have a shape? No. Gaseoso, right? It doesn't have a shape. So when we talk about Kṛṣṇa as being present everywhere, then what will you draw the logical conclusion? Kṛṣṇa is gaseoso. It doesn't have a shape, right? So that is why when people sometimes misinterpret this sarvatragram or available or spread all across everywhere, right? They think that, okay, because he's everywhere, he cannot have a shape, right? They are just drawing the parallels from the material world that they are looking at. But Kṛṣṇa is not from the material world, right? Kṛṣṇa is transcendental, and everything that Kṛṣṇa does is transcendental. There is no way to understand, transcendentalism and even to understand Kṛṣṇa, right? You know that when Kṛṣṇa was small, and then one of the gopis, she drew, on Nag Panchami, she drew that Nag, and she did some worship of the Nag. And Kṛṣṇa looked at it, and he was very scared of the snake, of this, cobra. And then later on, what was Kṛṣṇa doing?
Dancing on the
Dancing on the
Kalia, right? So it's very difficult to understand. Kṛṣṇa is very difficult to understand transcendentalism with our thing, right? So instead of trying to understand these things ourselves, we should just wait for them to descend. They will descend if we do bhakti yoga. Okay, if we do devotional service, then it will descend on our head, right? Plus, acharyas are there. Of course, acharyas are there for everybody. So, but our receptacle should be tuned to be able to capture whatever the acharyas are broadcasting. My receiver should be tuned to that channel, the bhakti channel, and get that. But we tune our things to this, that, everywhere other than bhakti. Not you, but I'm saying world in general does that, right? So how we understand Kṛṣṇa as everywhere, how does he go everywhere? In which form?
Two-handed form with the Tribhanga shape of Kṛṣṇa.
Does everybody agree with that? Is Kṛṣṇa present everywhere in the two-handed form?
No, he is present everywhere in different forms. I mean,
That's a question. I will ask the question. No, hear the question out before you answer. I was asking the question that in which form is Kṛṣṇa available and present everywhere? What is that form of Kṛṣṇa where in that form he's available everywhere?
two-handed human
Supersoul, Paramatma.
Yes, Supersoul. And how many hands does the Supersoul have?
4.
4. Okay. The two-handed form of Kṛṣṇa is a very rare form. You won't get it everywhere.
Yeah.
He expands, and becomes this two-handed form of Paramatma, and that Paramatma is there everywhere he expands. Right? So here, Eko Vyasau Rachayutam Jagadanda Kotim Yachaktirasti Jagadanda Chaya Yadantaha Andantarasa Paramanu Chayantarastham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Okay, look at this and tell me which line from here talks about that Kṛṣṇa is present in the atoms also.
Andantarstha Paramanu. Andantastha Yachakrirasti Jagata Anda.
What is atom called in Hindi?
Vartamāno.
Parmanu. There you go. So Andantarastha Parmanu. Andantara, anda means
Egg.
egg. So what is in the form of an egg? Come on, I told you 2 weeks ago. It is shaped like an egg. Brahmand. Brahma is under. Our universe is shaped like an oval. It's shaped like an egg. Egg is an oval, right? So he is present in the Brahmand, right? And then he's also present in the atoms. Okay? So in the Brahmand, he is present in 2 ways. Either he's widespread, right? everywhere, spread everywhere. Yatra tatra sarvatra, he spread, right? And that is Paramatma. And in that form, he can even enter the atoms. Vartamāno, you just told me just now, right? So, Andantara, he is there in the universe. So, where is there in the universe? Where do you see the very common manifestation of Viṣṇu in the universe? Which part of the universe do you see Viṣṇu?
Karno Dakshay Viṣṇu. Karno.
You just describe and tell me. We'll find out the name of that Viṣṇu later, but you tell me in which part of the universe do you see that Viṣṇu? You are living in this universe? No, you're wrong.
Prithvi.
Huh?
Prithvi. World.
At the bottom, he's at the bottom.
At the bottom for 500 points, exactly. He's lying at the bottom, and is he lying on a bed? What is he lying on?
Sheshnag. No.
Sheshnag, okay. And where is Sheshnag lying?
In the ocean.
Water.
Water.
Which water is that?
Karno Dakshay.
What is the name of that Viṣṇu?
Kshirodakshay Viṣṇu.
Huh?
No.
Garbhodakshay.
Garbhodakshay
Oh,
Viṣṇu.
okay.
Garbhodakshay Viṣṇu, right? And from his navel, what comes out?
Lotus.
Lotus.
And what is in the stem of the lotus?
Brahman.
Brahma.
In the stem,
Oh,
No.
No.
In the stem, 14 planets.
14 planetary systems.
planets.
Not 14 planets, 14 planetary systems
Oh,
with
14
billions and
systems.
millions and millions of planets, right? And then on the top of the lotus stem is what?
Brahma.
Is the
Satyalok,
lotus,
Brahma.
is Satyalok, is another planet, which is where Brahma stays, and is shaped like a lotus. So you also have to understand that when we think of the lotus, we draw this lotus like that. It's not that his planet is like that, right? His planet, if you look from far, will look like a lotus because the mountains are shaped like that and things like that. And Brahma's planet is amazing. It changes the color every day like that. It's very, very opulent, right? So now you understand Viṣṇu's, the Viṣṇu we are talking about. So Kṛṣṇa is saying that the fact that he is available and spread everywhere in this universe doesn't mean that he loses his subjective form, that he has got a form. Just because he's spread, he does not become gaseous, right? He is present in the form of Kshirodakshay Viṣṇu. And how does Kshirodakshay Viṣṇu look like? You'll pick up the Ishopanishad and you will see the picture of Kshirodakshay Viṣṇu there on the cover, right? That's his Kshirodakshay Viṣṇu. Present in our hearts, present in the atom, present everywhere. It doesn't lose, right? Now, another word for which we should be careful of, which appears in our verse for today, and let me see, can I bring up my verse for today, is 6.31. 6.31, where are we? Lost it, gosh. Okay, here, PG 6.31. I closed that tab by mistake. I'm going to open it up again. And here we go. One more important thing I wanted to emphasize here. 6.31. Here we go. Okay. sarva-bhūta-sthitaṁ yoma, right? What do you think the first line means?
Situated in everyone's heart.
Situated in everyone's heart.
Heart, right? I am situated in anyone. And as what? Can you tell me?
As the Supersoul.
Supersoul.
As he does it with, worship me as a bhajati ekatvam āsthitaḥ. What is the meaning of ekatvam?
In oneness.
Oneness.
Oneness. Now, that is a very dangerous word. Oneness, right? I am worshipping him in oneness. Right? So what does it mean? I'm worshipping him in oneness. I am one with him. I'm same as Kṛṣṇa. So there can be a bad smell of Mayavad. It can be interpreted that way. Right? People can take the Bhagavad Gita and interpret it in whichever way they want it to be interpreted, right? So Prabhupada will always caution us that these are the pitfalls into which we can fall unless we go through go with the association of a devotee. And that's why it's very important to have association of devotees always with us, right? So that, when our mind tries to take us, manorathena sthit astato bhayi, tries to take us everywhere in the planet of doubt, a devotee right next to you will pull you back into the reality and into the truth there, like that, right? So I'll bring up a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, okay? And this is from the time Mahabharata had just was about to begin, and conversations were happening, and Duryodhana wanted to have that fight, and everybody was explaining to him, don't fight, other than Dhritarashtra, I guess. And he got very angry when Vidura tried to explain to him not to do some of the bad things that he was doing, right? And what did he call him? Duryodhana, what did he call him? Vidur?
Shudraputra.
Shudraputra?
Something like that. That.
Dasiputra.
Mm.
Dasiputra, right?
Dasiputra.
They called him Dasiputra and insulted him and asked him to leave the home.
Mm.
And so Vidura left. And then here all this is happening, Mahabharata is happening, post-Mahabharata things is happening. Kṛṣṇa goes back to Dwarika, and then there's a fight between the Yadus because Kṛṣṇa is about to wind up his pastimes, and then Kṛṣṇa leaves his body, and all that has happened. Vidura is still outside, right? And Arjuna is also there in Dwarka. And so Vidura is going from one pilgrimage to another pilgrimage and so on and so forth, right? And there Vidura meets Uddhav, right? And so he starts having his conversations with Uddhav because Uddhav was close to Kṛṣṇa when Kṛṣṇa left this planet, right? Uddhav was following Kṛṣṇa. Although Kṛṣṇa had said, don't follow me, but he still could not bear separation from Kṛṣṇa. He followed, and Kṛṣṇa gave him some teachings there, right? So we come to hear about it in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm bringing that up, 3:4:31. Nodhonva api manyunyo yadgune nardita prabhu ato madvayunam lokam grahayan iha tisthatu. So he's saying Uddhav is not inferior to me in any ways because he's never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupada. The specific qualification for becoming the representative of the Lord is to be unaffected by the material modes of nature. The highest qualification of a person in the material world is to be Brahmana. But since a Brahmana is in the mode of goodness, and the mode of goodness is actually a quality of material, to be a Brahmana is not sufficient for becoming a representative of the Lord. One has to transcend the mode of goodness also and be situated in unalloyed goodness, unaffected by any of the qualities of material nature. This stage of transcendental qualification is called Shuddha Sattva or Vasudev. So Sattva is goodness. Shuddha Sattva is when it has left all the material traits. It becomes Shuddha Sattva or Vasudev. And in this stage, the signs of God can be realized. As the Lord is not affected by the modes of material nature, so a pure devotee of the Lord is also not affected by the modes of nature. That is the primary qualification for being one with the Lord. So you see, ekatvam we are talking about in our verse, right? Like that, right? So ekatvam doesn't mean that you have become Lord. Ekatvam means that now you're not affected by the modes of material nature. A person who is able to attain this transcendental qualification is called jīvan-muktaḥ or liberated. And Prabhupada quotes this particular verse that's coming up, only a part of that, in our verse from today, but here he quotes the full verse here. So jīvan-muktaḥ, it's an amazing thing. A person who is able to attain this transcendental quality is called jīvan-muktaḥ or liberated, even though he is apparently in material conditions. This liberation is achieved by one who constantly engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu 1.2.87, it is stated, Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasagira nikhilasva api avastatu jīvan-muktaḥ sa uchyate. Anyone who by his action, mind and word, karmana manasa gira, lives only for transcendental loving service of the Lord, iha yasya harer dase, is suddenly a liberated soul, even though he may appear to be in a condition of material existence. Uddhava was in such a transcendental position, and thus he was elected to be the factual representative of the Lord in his bodily absence from the vision of the world, which basically means that when Lord Kṛṣṇa went away, before he went away, he gave some teachings to Uddhava, and Kṛṣṇa left this planet, but Uddhava continued. He went up to Badrik ashram up in the Himalayas, and even till today, Uddhava is there in that ashram, and he is transmitting or propagating those teachings that Kṛṣṇa gave him to the sages who are there in Badrik ashram. And they are learning all these teachings. So then, and I'll come back to that. But such a devotee of the Lord can withstand all the onslaughts of material nature. So, Sutapa, are you here with me? Such a devotee of the Lord can withstand all onslaughts of material nature, and therefore he is known as Goswāmī. Only such Goswāmīs can penetrate the mysteries of the Lord's transcendental loving relationships, right? So that's the fact that, Kṛṣṇa can look at a snake and feel very much afraid because he has a loving relationship with that gopi. He just wants to play around with that gopi, say, hey, I got scared, and he's having fun. But on the other hand, also when the ball goes into the Yamuna, he goes there to get the ball for his friends because he has a relationship with that. And then he dances on top of Kaliya, right? Because he has a relationship with the wives of Kaliya who are praying to him, who are his devotees, like that. So we have to keep this in mind that ekatvam, or to worshipping the God in oneness, doesn't mean that we have become one with the Lord, right? It is this type of oneness that everything that you have is connected. Yoga is connected with the Lord. Then you are one, because it's difficult to now say which is the Lord and which is the devotee. They go hand in hand together. Everything you have is connected with the Lord, right? And who was that one? Amrish Maharaj, right? Everything he connected with the Lord is worshipping in oneness, and no material tinges, no this and that, no thinking about this or thinking about that, like that, right? So that's very, very important thing that we have to keep in mind, right? And jīvan-muktaḥ, here in this life itself, you will become jīvan-muktaḥ, right? And once you get to that particular stage, right, that you have, you are engaging in full devotional service with the Lord, right? In ekatvam, in oneness with the Lord, Kṛṣṇa conscious, constantly always thinking about the Lord. Anything that you see, you connected with the Lord. That's what your nature now. That's your second nature now, or main nature now, when you do that. So then in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Kṛṣṇa says, Mam chayo abhyabhicārena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samitityatān bhamma bhūyāya kalpate. So one who's engaged in devotional service to me is never going to, he's going to transcend these modes of material nature. Sagunan samitityatān. Guna means material nature. He's samitityan. He conquers and goes over, and he's never going to fall down like that, right? So these are some of the things to keep in mind. And I'd like each one of you to summarize one point, because we took a lot of points in this class today, right? One point that you heard. Only one. Give chance to others to summarize, unless they pass it back to you. If you run.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
About the expansions of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't particularly understand the subjective, but if he is one, he's the expansion, he's the same if all his expansions are him. So if we, for example, pray to take another expansion's name, I'm just asking just for understanding. Say we say Ram or another expansion or Balram. Does Kṛṣṇa know that's him we are calling?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So that's what I thought. That's the point I was.
Yeah. Yeah. Also about the subjective portion, suppose somebody has an operation, okay? And there is a cyst in their body somewhere, right? And the surgeon opens the body, cuts the cyst and keeps it outside the body, stitches up the body again, right? Now we are looking at the cyst. Is it a portion of the patient?
Yes.
Yes, right? Now, is it a subjective portion or not? That's where the question comes, right? When I say it's a subjective portion of Kṛṣṇa, that basically means it'll have the same form as Kṛṣṇa. Like that, right? Whatever form, whatever is there inside Kṛṣṇa, full, plenary, not even subjective. They're subjective and plenary portions. Of course, if they're subjective, they become plenary. Plenary means full. And that's the amusement and the amazing thing about trying to understand transcendental things is Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnat Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So trying to understand what does it mean to be whole. What it means to be whole is that when something is removed from you, what remains is the whole, and what was removed is also a whole. It's very difficult to understand that, but that is what God is. So when Kṛṣṇa expands into a subjective portion, like when Kṛṣṇa is going to expand into Vasudeva, then it is not that Kṛṣṇa now gets diminished. Or when Vasudeva expands into Viṣṇu, that Viṣṇu is diminished and is lesser thing. It's the same thing which is there. They will choose to show you certain things or not show you certain things. Right? For example, sometimes people, even we tell our friends and our spouses mostly, तुमने मेरा वो रूप नहीं देखा. You didn't see that side of me. This means that we also don't display everything all the time, right? We show certain things and we don't show certain things. So similarly, in the Viṣṇu form, he will not show you the flute, but Kṛṣṇa's full form is there, like that. Okay, and why does he do that? Depending on the mood of the devotee. Why does Kṛṣṇa take so many forms? To satisfy the moods of the devotee. Somebody wants to worship Vaman avatar, somebody wants Hamsa avatar, somebody wants this, somebody wants 2 hands, somebody says, oh no, God cannot have 2 because I have 2. He should have more, 4 hands, like that, right? He takes these forms for our benefit, like that. But these forms are subjective portions, right? It's not like we cut off something from Kṛṣṇa, cleave with a cleaver, knife, and then we got a little portion, right? So there were, one Viṣṇu from here, one Viṣṇu from here, not like that. They're full like that. They don't lose their personality, right? Like if a cyst is cut out of somebody's body, right? Then you can't look at the cyst and say, here's the hand, here is the eye, here is the nose, here's the teeth. No, it's a cyst, right? But if it's a subjective portion, it's very difficult for us to understand. Because in our world, there is no subjective portion, right? Because even when a mother gives birth to a child, right? The mother still remains. I mean, that's the closest I can come and tell you. But the mother's body gets depleted a lot when she gives birth, right? So there's something that goes. So Purnat Purnam Udachyate, Purnam Vashishyate, that doesn't happen in this material world, But in the spiritual world, it happens like that. But good question, yeah. Okay. Anything else? We were summarizing. You're supposed to tell me. So Madha Sangini Mataji gave us that we talked about the various avatars of Kṛṣṇa. What else did we talk about?
What I like the best, the takeaway from these last 3 verses is that if you see him in everything and he sees he sees everything in you, then you're never lost. So that last thing, you are never lost, gives you a little confidence that, if you always see him in everything, you'll probably not get lost.
I also wanted to just, polish that statement a little bit. So he's saying that one who sees Kṛṣṇa in everything and everything in Kṛṣṇa, right?
Yeah.
And not that Kṛṣṇa sees him in everything, right? I see Kṛṣṇa in everything. Means I see Kṛṣṇa in Varshana Mataji. How do I see Kṛṣṇa in Vartamāno Mataji? I can't see her heart. I can't see Paramatma in her heart. But philosophically, I can understand that she is coming from Kṛṣṇa. She is connected to Kṛṣṇa. So that's how I see Kṛṣṇa in Varshana Mataji. Not that I'm able to see the Supersoul in her heart. I can't even see the Supersoul in my heart. What to talk about seeing it in other.
Like he is saying, Kṛṣṇa is saying that who sees me in everything and everything in me. Then
everything in me. So everything in how do you see? Now the question is, first part is done, right? Seeing Krishna and everything. This is what we said, to know that everything is coming from Krishna. How do we see everything in Krishna? You will see everything in Krishna by trying to understand the 3 types of Vishnus that are there. At a minimum, right? Everything is in Krishna because everything is in the Karano Dakshayi Viṣṇu, the Mahavishnu, who is lying in the causal ocean. Because from his body, all these universes come out. So I'm able to see everything is in him because I see everything coming out of his body. So I know everything is in his body. That's how you understand that verse. But yeah, good. Anything else that anybody else wants to share?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So he can expand, Krishna expands both personal as well as in impersonal forms. And impersonal is Brahmajyoti, and personal forms is Varaha, Narasimha, and all those other forms.
Purushavataras.
Yeah, Purushavatāras. And when you said that Purnam Shloka, I will remember, I'm not sure, you can correct me if this formula is wrong. Infinity minus something is equal to infinity.
Yes, that's it. And that is why mathematics evolved in India. All the sub-mathematics, algebra and all, they evolved in India because we were trying to define God and explain gods in mathematical terms. So that's why, India is rich, yeah.
And as he is everywhere, he is not, I don't know Spanish, Mataji, but he is not like a gas form. He's not in the gas form.
So this Sunday, please come to my Spanish class. 6:30 to 7, Sanskrit, 7 to 7:30. Spanish, Espanol. But thank you, good, yeah. Anything else?
And the last one on the, I'm sorry, Mataji, am I summarizing everything? Or
anybody else wants to summarize? Varshana Mataji, want to say something?
Mataji, ekatvam, when you said that he is, ekatvam means merging into that. No, we don't merge into Krishna, but he is a different identity, and I'm his part and parcel. So that, and he is transcendental, and I am of these 5 elements, are made of those 5 elements, material 5 elements. So I cannot.
I like to polish that statement. Yeah, before you go further, I'd like to just polish that statement that yes, he's transcendental, and so am I. And that is how I become qualitatively same as Krishna, because our soul is not made of material, and I am the soul. As soon as we say that I am made of material, then I'm thinking I am the body, right? So qualitatively, the ekatvam comes from quality. Qualitatively, I'm the same as God, so there is some oneness there. And then the oneness over here is that the oneness in which I connect everything that I have, I connect it with Krishna in devotional service to him, right? So that is how I come into oneness with him, right? For example, when a wife and a husband, they get married, like 2 man and a woman get married, right? So they say that we are one. What does it mean they are one? They're 2 separate beings, right? And then, of course, 40 years later, they will realize that they were never one. But because they do the same thing, right? They're living in the same house, they're eating the same thing, watching the same show, like that's where they are one, right? Oneness. It's not that they are one and the same thing. Soul is a soul. The soul is a das of the Lord. We have to understand we are not the Lord. Like that, right? Oneness means I am Lord. It just somehow something happened that I'm in this state. Like that. Okay. So very good. We'll call it a day here on this.
Shraddha Mataji, I have a question. In the next Saturday is the Bhakti Shastri exam, and we had a summary, and Srivas Pandit Prabhu said that definitely read up, means the yoga ladder is definitely coming on the exam. So when he says that, when we describe the yoga ladder, do we start like from karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyan yoga, and that dhyan yoga we again describe all the ashtanga yogas,
Yoga
and then
ladder.
bhakti yoga. Is that the whole ladder?
Yoga means connection, right?
Yeah.
Yoga means connection. So when you're doing karma yoga, then also you are connecting, right? And then dhyan yoga also you are connecting. So it doesn't matter as long, well, if it's an essay type question.
Yeah, it is an essay question.
then you have a lot of liberty to explain why you are saying that in the ladder these two are also the rungs, because they are, prelude to the rungs, and sometimes people can even make them as a part of the ladder. But if you're
You
saying
mean
that,
the Ashtanga yoga? Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
but the whole yoga ladder does include all the other yogas too,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So
yeah,
you
because
have
it
to
is
explain, I mean, not
Yes.
explain in detail, but you do start with karma, dhyan, and then, yeah, okay. I was just wondering if all those are included in the ladder.
It's a ladder. Yeah. There was some document I'm flying around. I don't know. I gave Bhakti Shastri like 15 years ago. There was a yoga ladder document. So I don't know. Yeah. To explain all
So,
that.
yeah. Okay.
Then good luck for that exam that you're coming up with. And thank you so much for joining and participating. And keep thinking about these points that you summarize, because that way the concepts will go into your mind. Let's take your leave now. Vanchikalpatrubhyascha Kṛpāsindhubhyo Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Gopremanandite Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Shraddha Mataji.
Thank you so much.
Dhanyavad.